What is going on, everybody? This is Smokin Joe here with another great episode of the Smokin Podcast with Smokin Joe once again. And ladies and gentlemen, as always, we got plenty to talk about on this episode, ranging from more of today's trends as we've talked about in previous episodes. And two of those trends that we're going to be talking about today is the origin of 6-7. What is that? What exactly does it mean? And why do you see it everywhere? I mean, it's just two numbers, for crying out loud. And also, why do we watch mukbangers on, wherever you watch videos from? YouTube, TikTok, wherever. The fascination behind mukbangers and people just eating all the time. And we're also going to be talking about David Coverdale, who is retiring from the music world, and I'll be going over exactly who he is here very, very shortly. But before we get started on today's episode, I want to give a shout out to two of my big-time listeners who has been listening to the podcast since day one and have really expressed how much they've enjoyed it. And I want to give a shout out to these two special ladies who I'm hoping is listening to this right now as we speak. And that is Miss Heather Haddix and also Miss Donna Smith. And thank you, too, for your support and for listening to the podcast, and also for the kind words that you've said, and for rocking out and supporting the podcast and my journey into the podcast world. So big shout out to Heather Horn Haddix and also Miss Donna Smith who's listening in. So, ladies and gentlemen, first order of business. What is the meaning of 6-7? What's so special about it? It's just two numbers. I mean, what's the deal here? So, 6-7 right now is currently an internet meme and slang term that emerged, this year. It's been featured on social media sites like TikTok and Instagram. And it really has, according to my source, it has no fixed meaning. And it says the phrase had originated from the song called Doop Doop by Skrilla. I've never heard of that song, which became popular in video edits featuring professional basketball players, especially LaMelo Ball, who is 6 feet 7 inches tall. The meme was further popularized through overtime elite player Taylor Kinney's repeated use of the meme. And I couldn't tell you if I had $1 for every time that I've seen or saw the mention of 6-7 just in the last couple weeks, I would be rich right now. And I've been really curious as to what the meaning was, and I'm still having a hard time trying to figure out what exactly it means. And, what's so amazing about it? Why does people keep mentioning it? What's so freaking special about it? I don't understand. But now we're going moving on to the reason why we watch mukbanging videos. And this is actually a video trend that I can kind of get behind too, which I've been guilty of watching people, videos of people eating and mukbanging videos. And I mean, it's comforting in one way, but, at the same time, it's kind of bad when you watch it and then you don't have nothing to eat in the house. But I can see it being beneficial to people who's been, having a hard time, eating and, maybe suffering from a eating disorder where they don't eat enough. I mean, I can see, mukbanging videos and videos like that being sort of therapeutic in that sense. But at the same time, some of the channels, they're okay to watch, but there are some of them, they eat like complete slobs, like just the sound of them, chewing with their mouth open and have junk like all around their mouth and stuff. I mean, nobody wants to watch that. Well, I take that back. There's actually a lot of people that does, but I just think in my opinion, I just think it's kind of disgusting. But right now, it's actually been a trend for a while. It's nothing like just recently just happened, but some people, they like to watch videos like that. It's therapeutic. It kind of chillaxes them. They consider it a ASMR. And what ASMR is And ASMR is the term for the sensation people get when they watch stimulating videos or take part in other activities, which results from the activities that occurred in the video that they watch. And I mean, literally, you can get on YouTube or TikTok and you see ASMR videos all over the place. You know, some people watch them to help, help them sleep. Like they can watch a video of a vacuum cleaner running all night long or the sound of rain and they go to sleep. That's a prime example of ASMR. Or another one being, the eating videos. They seem to be, therapeutic for people that's having hunger issues that, are not wanting to eat or maybe suffering from, eating disorders. And, I can see it being therapeutic in that sense, but there's actually, there's some of them, man, they just kind of take to a whole new level, especially these competitive eaters like Joey Chestnut, I mean, I just don't know how in the world they do it, but it has to be witchcraft, whatever it is. And I kind of envy those that, they can do these competitive eating competitions, and they don't even gain a pound, but of course they work it out, after they eat it. But at the same time, if I ate as much quantities as they do, I would be probably dead. Like either my heart would stop or I'd be in a diabetic coma one. I would have to go to the friggin' hospital. Considering I'm large and I have a mustache, I don't think I can withstand that much food. But there's just some of them that they're literally like a garbage disposal that they can eat just infinite quantities of food and not feel full. And there's some of them that it don't take much and it happens. But I don't know, it just watching those videos amaze me, but the only reason really that I watch them is, I don't have, any problems like that, but, just the food they eat looks amazing. Whether it's a nice big steak or crab roll or whatever the case may be, the food looks amazing. And to those of you who have never met me in person, I'm a big food guy. I'm large and in charge on the outside, and I love to eat. I'll just be totally open and honest with you. And videos like that, I enjoy. But there's some of them competitive eaters out there that kind of get on my nerves, because there's some of them that act like they're cocky and that they're narcissistic and act like they're best of the best. And as I've discussed in episode 1, people like that get on my freaking nerves so bad. So what? You enter the room. What do you want? A round of a freaking applause? You're not the only one here, okay? Like, there's this one guy, which I'm not going to mention his name, but every time that it's like the world around him is the audience, and he's always the center of attention. Who cares? Yeah, you're one of the greatest professional eaters out there, but you're not God, Nobody needs to bow down to you and be down at your feet. Just bowing down to you. You're nothing special. You put your clothes on the same as I do. Except you probably don't struggle as much. But that's besides the point. I don't know. It's just people like that, kind of going back to episode 1. It's people like that that really gets on my nerves. They act like that they're always the center of the attention, and that everybody around them, it's like they're always in competition with somebody. And I didn't mean to go off on that soapbox, but, I had to mention that again. And if you're one of those people, then try to stay away from me. Because I'm not going to bow down to you just because you think you're the best of the best. I'm sorry. That's just not how I roll. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be taking our first break here very shortly. And when we come back, something that's been in the news here lately is David Coverdale announced yesterday that he was going to be taking a retirement from the music world. We're going to be talking about that more in detail. Now, some of you may not be familiar with who he is exactly, but if you listen to any hard rock back in the 80s and even the early 90s, he is a name that you're very, very well familiar with. But we're going to be talking about that more in detail when we come back. So be sure to stay tuned. And this is the Smokin Podcast with Smokin Joe. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys are still tuned in with me. And as I mentioned before we took our first break, I'm going to be talking about the retirement announcement of the legendary David Coverdale. And while many of you know him as the lead singer of Whitesnake, he was also the lead singer for a short time for Deep Purple back in the 1970s. He joined after Ian Gillan left the band, and he sang vocals on 3 albums for the group, which includes Burn, Stormbringer, and Come Taste the Band. And it was shortly after Deep Purple had broke up in 1978, that was when Coverdale had formed Whitesnake. And Whitesnake has delivered many power ballads, including Still of the Night, Slide It In, Here I Go Again on My Own, and Is This Love? Very popular band in the 1980s. That was when their career really took off, especially going toward the late 80s into the early 90s. And it's sad to see that David Coverdale is now retiring, but he deserves a very well-treated retirement for all of his contributions that he's done to the music world from Deep Purple, including Whitesnake. And I wish you a good retirement, my friend, and thank you for everything that you've done for us over the last 5 decades. Or actually, last 6 decades. Apologize about that because my math is very, very terrible. And ladies and gentlemen, something else I want to talk about too, and this is a sad situation that has started out of West Virginia. Steve Lipscomb, a mining foreman who went missing after being stuck in a coal mine that had flooded after a supposed routine operation, has now been found deceased. He was 42 years old, and he was found dead days after he went missing, like I said, whenever the West Virginia mine was flooded. Rescuers were able to safely enter the Rolling Thunder mine in Nicholas County around 6 a.m., and this was on Thursday, which was yesterday, after water levels inside the mine had receded sufficiently. A 2-man team found Lipscomb's body about 90 minutes later. And the reason why that he was trapped in the mine in the first place was he was trying to save the other miners that was in there with him. And that right there just shows a great deal of heroism just for, the act that he done, to sacrifice himself for the safety of the other miners to make sure that they get out. And that's just something that is unheard of anymore. And I just want to say that my thoughts and prayers are with his family and all of his friends and even his co-workers for this terrible tragedy, because that's, he'll always be remembered for his sacrifice and for being the hero that he was. But he can now rest in paradise and be with the ones that have passed on before him. But that's just a really sad story that come out of West Virginia. And something else that happened in West Virginia, it was, I can't remember which area it was in. It was in Raleigh County, I know. That there was a funeral home that had caught on fire and had burnt to the ground. The funeral home had been in business since it was early 1900s. And it was still an active funeral home whenever it burned down. And I just think it's a sad situation because here there were remains of loved ones that was still inside that funeral home as it caught on fire. And nobody really knows for sure how the fire had started, whether it was something electrical or if it was possible arson, but it's just a very sad situation to come out of Raleigh County, West Virginia. And it was, a funeral home that has made such a legacy just over the last century, it's just awful to see it go like that. So it's been a sad time for a lot of people in West Virginia, just in the last few days. And folks, we're getting ready to take our second break here just momentarily. And when we come back, an idea that I had thought about the other day that I kind of wanted to throw out there, and I want to see what you guys' opinions are with that. And also going back to when we talked earlier about David Coverdale, what are some of your favorite songs that you used to jam to with Whitesnake? Or if you listened to him with Deep Purple, like what were some of your favorite tracks that you used to love to rock out to, and still even to this day? I mean, we're not talking about back in the 80s, even to this day, what are some of your favorite Whitesnake tracks, and also some of your favorite Deep Purple tracks as well? And also going back before we cut to our first commercial, what are your thoughts on, the whole mukbang situation, and also on 6-7? I mean, do you think it's kind of a pointless meme, or do you think that there's some meaning behind it? Or is there a meaning that I'm not really thinking about that, if there's even a purpose for it? I mean, feel free to say what you want and tell me what you think. Like I said before, this is your show too. I want to hear from you guys, the listeners. Feel free to let me know in the comments and let me know what you think, and we'll have a discussion about it. So what do you think of this whole 6-7 meme thing? And what's your thoughts on the mukbanger videos, or if you participate in that kind of thing? If you're a mukbanger yourself, feel free to share your experience. And also, talking about your favorite Whitesnake and Deep Purple tracks. But when we come back, like I said, I'm going to be talking about an idea that I've had come up with the other day. And it's actually kind of an informative question. Why doesn't Subway serve sliders? We'll talk about more about that whenever we come back from the break. And be sure to stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. And this is the Smokin Podcast with Smokin Joe. And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and before we continue on with our next topic, as promised, we have finally reached the end of an era. After 232 years of being in circulation and being pressed, pennies will now be discontinued as of this week. And you might be asking yourself, why is the United States minting its last penny, and what does that mean for later on? And pennies were struck, starting with why the pennies are being discontinued. President Donald Trump considers pennies to be wasteful, and that they're really, out of all the coins, they're the most expensive to make, where they're made out of more of a copper alloy in comparison to nickel, like all the other coins are made of. And they're more expensive to make in comparison to their actual value, which is worth exactly 1 cent. And not that I'm saying I agree or disagree or whatever, but it is sad that to see it come to an end, because pennies have been a part of everybody's lives, and it's always been good spare change, especially when you get into a pinch and you want to reach that specific dollar amount or exact change amount. It's always good to have. And, at one point in time, I used to collect pennies. And there's some pennies out there that's actually worth a lot of money if you can get your hands on it, especially if you find a penny from, it was either 1942 or 1943, and if you find that specific one, then you might be sitting on a golden egg. It's worth a lot of money, and it's definitely one that you want to keep close to you. And there was actually some pennies that I had found not long ago, that it was a series that was made back in 2009, which celebrated, it was Abraham Lincoln's 200th birthday. And I thought they were really cool, and they had different designs on the back that represented different points in Lincoln's life, from when he was president to when he grew up in Kentucky during his childhood. And I thought it was really cool. And I think they only made, exactly 4 pennies in that series. But I think they'd be cool to have as like a collector's item. And I want to say out of the 4, there's only one that I need. I can't remember which one it was. But it's just sad to see them come to an end. But they are still going to be in circulation. They're just not going to be made as of this week. And I want to hear from you guys. In your opinion, do you think that, pennies being discontinued is a good thing, or is it a bad thing? Let me know what you think. And we'll have a discussion. And moving on to our next topic, I know this is definitely a complete change of venue, but I had come up with an idea the other day, just out of nowhere, which I have the tendency to do. Just some random thoughts and random questions just pop up in my head, just out of the blue. And of course, Subway being one of the healthiest restaurants out there, and of course all these sub-sandwich places like Jimmy John's, Penn Station, and all these others, why in the hell don't they have sliders? I feel like that sliders would be a genius idea. I know you've got, like at Subway, for example, you've got the foot long and you've got the 6-inch subs, aka the SS cholesterol. I mean, what if somebody don't want that big of a sandwich? Even the 6-inch sub, some people don't want even that much. I mean, have something smaller, like a slider or a bunch of sliders, instead of having just one big old sandwich, I just think that'd be a genius idea, especially if you're wanting to have like a party or whatever. And the cutting would be done. You don't have to worry about packing around one of those big 10-foot long subs, and it would be a good little party snack. And I wonder why that restaurants like Subway and Jimmy John's, why they haven't come up with something like that. And it'd be a good and healthier way to compete with restaurant chains like Crystal and White Castle. So I want to hear from you guys. Do you think that would be a cool idea? Like if Subway or these other sub-sandwich places, if they would hop along with this idea, do you think it would do good? Just let me know what you guys think. And once again, I'll be sure to facilitate the discussion. Just let me know what you guys think, and we'll go from there. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for this episode of the Smokin Podcast with Smokin Joe. And as always, I want to remind you guys that if there's a topic that you would like for me to discuss on future episodes, feel free to let me know in the comments. And be sure to follow the page on Facebook, and also follow me on TikTok, as well as the YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe and keep up with new videos as they become available. And as I mentioned, if there's a topic that you would like for me to discuss on a future episode, feel free to let me know by going to either one of those channels or profiles and let me know what topic you want me to discuss, because I'm always open to new ideas. And, also any way to make the channel or make the videos better. I'm always open to suggestions, because I'm still fairly new to the podcast world, and this is all still like a learning experience for me. So just any suggestions, I'm open to anything, as long as you're not a jerk to me, because I might have to have you voted off the island, no pun intended, but I just, I don't take no hassle in my castle, just saying. So, any comments that you have, be sure to keep them PG related, and, no confrontations of any kind, but, just any suggestions that you feel like I should implement in future episodes to make, content and episodes better, just feel free to let me know, and I'm open to any suggestions that you have. But until next time, ladies and gentlemen, this is Smokin Joe signing off with Smokin Joe's Smokin Podcast.